anyplace else, Venice is a mix of both man-made beauty and audacity. I mean, even with modern engineering, it would take gigantic cogliones to place art-filled cathedrals in the middle of a salty lagoon atop shifting mud. Long before cranes or mechanical pile drivers were even a thing, Venetians figured out how to pound thousands of wooden piles into the muck, topped with layers of wood and rock. Which means that every single brick in this entire city had to be bought or borrowed, salvaged or stolen. And for some reason, that idea seems especially awesome here at St. Mark's Square. Napoleon called it the drawing room of Europe. Galileo demonstrated the first telescope right there in the original bell tower. There's the basilica known as the Church of Gold, and next door, the Doge's Palace, where you can almost hear the political scheming that seeped into the walls through the centuries. There may be ghosts filling St. Mark's, but most days it is definitely filled with tourists. And the pigeons who love them. So legend has it that these guys are direct descendants of the pigeons that followed the initial settlers, the ones who were fleeing from the barbarians 1,500 years ago. I have no idea whether or not that's true, but as a New Yorker, it's everything I can do to keep from screaming in terror right now. This is like, I'm losing my camera. Thanks a lot. Thanks for that. Selling bird seed and selfie sticks is a new kind of cottage industry. And the cafes provide another lesson in Venetian supply and demand. This is 12 euros. That's a $16 cup of coffee, people. Wow. Coming in winter means Venice is lonelier, gloomier, but an empty St. Mark's Square makes a great vantage to watch her other famous phenomenon, which begins with that siren. It is the sound of an approaching acqua alta, high water, propelled by moon and wind. You see, a full moon brings higher tides, and when the Sirocco winds are blowing up the back of the Italian boot, Adriatic seawater comes rushing through the three inlets of the Venice Lagoon. It's predictable, so 3 hours before the liquid lifts comes that haunting alarm. One tone means the water will reach 110 centimeters above normal. 2 tones, 120, and so on. Today it will top 130, 4 feet 3 inches above normal. The higher parts of the city will stay dry, but here in San Marco, 130 is just high enough to render your wellies worthless.
I don't know why I bothered to put on the boots. Woo, that's cold. That'll wake you up.
It's been said that the waters of Venice mirror the character of the Venetians, that their mood goes up for 6 hours and then down for 6 hours. They've always had sort of a love-hate relationship with the water around them. The same waves that protected them from invading armies, made them rich as merchants, also bring so much discomfort and misery and existential dread. In the 1920s, there were about 400 floods like this throughout that decade. In the 90s, 2,400. Each year brings new records and new and often inelegant ways to cope. And so we have this, the crudest possible tourist transportation system. Although some in the Chamber of Commerce are trying to make the most of this recently, they put these scenes to jaunty music to prove that Venice is a perfectly livable city, even in knee-deep, freezing cold water. But here's the reality. In the past few generations, over 100,000 Venetians have fled their city for an easier life on the mainland. Less than 60,000 remain. So I want to go into their homes and shops, understand why they stay, and what worries them most. Is it the force of nature or human nature?